Okay, welcome, welcome attendees. Today we're having a session with Angela on AI for gender equality. So the agenda?
You need to swap the displays.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you for letting me know, Amber. Okay, so the agenda for today is we're starting with a very quick intro to who we are, Data Plus Women SGE, as well as an introduction to women in AI, as well as Angela, who's from Women in AI. We will then go into the content proper. We will have Angela share with us what AI for gender equality is all about. She has done a lot of research in this area, so we will take about 15 to 20 minutes for her to share her knowledge and her research, and then we will then open the floor to questions. So attendees, please feel free to type your questions into the chat whenever the presentation is ongoing, because we will be addressing them after 15 to 20 minutes of presentation. We also hope to make this more of an interaction and discussion, so there's no wrong questions, and any comments, point of views are welcome. So please keep them coming. And then finally, we will end with an introduction to the WhyMaster program. The WhyMaster program is actually hosted by Women in AI. And this is a unique opportunity for anyone who wants to enhance their tech skills and literacy to join. And I will have Angela to share with us more about this program towards the end of the session. And this is open for the participants for today. So if this is something that interests you and you want to take part in, Angela will also share how you can subsequently register for the program. So without further ado, we will go straight into the introduction. So Data Plus Women, we have the vision of being the center of data leadership and being a safe, diversified platform for women. And our mission is to help women in data by providing connection, empowerment, and recognition. So we do monthly events that kind of center around these three themes. So we have events where we get different women in data or interested in data or in tech to meet up and connect with each other in person or virtually during COVID period. We will also have different sessions whereby we share different topics. So for example, we had AI, or today is about gender for equality, so etc. etc. And then finally, we also want to recognize all the women in data or doing work to kind of promote kind of gender equality or more women in the data space. And Angela is a great person that we also want to take this platform to recognize and have give her a forum to kind of share some of her findings and her passion to a wider audience. The Data Plus Women team is made up of the few ladies here, including myself. And we are always on the lookout for more volunteers who are interested to join us. So please feel free to reach out to us if you are interested. Now I will hand it over to Angela to tell us more about what Women in AI is about. And Angela, over to you.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Data Plus Women in Singapore. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and really appreciate your amazing support and actually making this happen. So hello, audience. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Angela Kim. I'm the Australian Women in AI Ambassador, and also APAC. I'm the APAC Ambassador Lead, and also education head for global the program. So Women in AI is a nonprofit actually we want to say do tank, not think tank. And we work together. We are working together to gender inclusive and AI, and promoting more females into technology and AI, so that the females can benefit fully from this digital economy and global society. So as you can see that we work really hard to make sure this happens and increase female representation and participations in AI through community events and also lots of education programs. So when we talk about who we are, how do we look like? So we have, including, bit of dormant members. We have over plus 8,000 members globally and 133 countries, around the world. And we have nearly 40 ambassadors now, as of last week's the total. And out of those, the female members, we have about 40% tech profiles and about 20% PhDs. And we run voluntary basis with bring community at the core of our value proposition. And as you can see that, we run all these events, and there's so many females, working around the clock globally to make sure that, we can really move the needle to bring more females into tech and AI. So what do we do? So in a nutshell, we are a community, female community, and we use Slack, and owned by, Tableau, Salesforce. And we have white people, all these programs, bringing, women in AI people together. And we do have Way Awards, which in Australia and New Zealand, we ran in March very successfully. And already we are preparing for the next year, 2022 March event that's going to be hosted in Melbourne. And the year after, we are planning to do APAC version. So very soon we are bringing Women in AI Awards to Singapore as well, because we plan to do it in Singapore. And there are events. So we have various events. As you can see that the prefix WAI, Way, stands for Women in AI, and suffix, tailed by all different events name in capital. So Way Talk, Way on Stage, and Way Summit. As the name explains, you can see that this is really try to give a forum for females where they can come and share their ideas, and bring more females, try to really help them to be more confident. And throughout the summit, we bring all these different speakers, different themes in one place. And we can really share the same value and try to understand, what's the next step, how can we really move forward to make change. So the next one is education programs. You can see that there are several. And way to go is, as you can see that, it's like way to go. So we try to encourage more females into technology, into various, robot coding camp, and also this different AI camp. And actually we do have a camp, program during school holiday. Mostly we are targeting, high school female students. And Way Open Doors, as you can see that, we try to host Way Open Door sessions and try to help more females about the future careers in AI and technology and how we can support them. WhyAccelerate is a very interesting program which just opened in July for the first time in APAC region. So this is something, if you're interested, please go and find out more details, because the application closes very soon. So I will talk about WhyAccelerate, more in detail later. So WhyLearn is, as you can see that, why learn? So, try to really empower more females in AI technology. And WaiMASTer is tech literacy program. We are proudly, partnered with Tableau and Microsoft. And also, we work with different consulting firms like PwC and KPMG, and try to really help and empower more females, especially like university students. And publications and research, we have Medium and Weiblog. They're so different, the mediums available, where, we can really exchange ideas and promote new way of thinking as well. So I'd like to talk about AI for gender equality. This is a really interesting project. So during COVID in Sweden, the innovation agency called Vinnova. So to be honest, I didn't know about Vinnova was they exist until this event, right? This particular research. So it was promoted through Women in AI that Sweden, the innovation agency, is looking for partner countries to get engaged for 6 months and to understand about all different areas and problems about the women gender inequality, and try to understand how we can help to solve the problem, because there are many qualitative researches are done, but there are not many quantitative researches has been done. So we want to combine two areas. So Swedish Women in AI ambassador engaged, and we got the funding. So we brought 6 countries, Ireland, Mexico, US, Australia, and Switzerland and Sweden. So these ambassadors, we got together and we really discussed, every 2 weeks. And we ran workshop, every 2 weeks, so like 3 to 4 hours of workshop with Binova, and try to understand what the problems are. And we looked at 5 areas, key areas, to understand if there's any gender equality exists and how AI can be used to solve the problem. So the first area we looked at was gender-based violence. So as you can see, especially it was discussed during COVID, it became really heightened. It's more like, surface that, gender-based violence was actually more prominent than we thought. And we wanted to see, where are the use cases. And actually from Mexico, David shared a lot of, really practical use cases that's happening in Mexico, because during this research, it was uncovered that there are many actually startups, the female founders and co-founders in Mexico, they are working hard to assist gender-based violence in Mexico. So it was very encouraging to hear that. And the next area we looked at was the health inequalities. It's really surprising that there are 50% male and 50% female. But when it comes to the women's health related research, especially, creating some, AI driven and technology driven app or product, the ratio is unbelievable. There's less than 4% investment goes to female related the health innovation product. So that means out of all the innovation projects, 96% are for male and only 4% for females. So that's really shocking, but that's what the reality is. And also gender pay gap. It's really in unison, whether it's the Western society or Asian APAC region, the gender pay gap exists, and it's quite quite big. The gap is pretty big, and it becomes bigger as the career band increases. So which means when you enter the workplace, the career band starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 executives level, right? So as the career band increases, the pay gap becomes bigger. And you know why? And it's quite shocking when you think about, actually there are less females in upper or higher the career band. So it's quite, there's big problem exists, and we try to understand why, and we want to find out if AI can help to solve the problem. The second last topic is unpaid work. So this area is very interesting, because when you think about unpaid work, all the domestic work is unpaid work. And during COVID, again, it was really discovered that a lot of households, the husband and wife, they work, really high profile jobs, right? They both, head, or they both, C level, like in senior executive, the level, even though they both work, similar level, always, most likely, the moms, females take more domestic work, and they take more, looking after children and, helping children. So always, even though they work same hours, it was very funny because one of my, the colleague mentioned that, when she has a break, she's thinking about, okay, what should I do? Should I cook, prepare meals? And should I look after my kids, homework and, meals and snack and everything? Whereas husband is thinking, oh, it's a break. Okay, can I go for a run? Can I do some exercise? So the mindset is there. And I'm not talking about, Asian country when this kind of conversation is happening actually in Australia. So which means it's same everywhere. It's the same. The husband and wife unpaid work, and especially the ones not working full-time job, they are doing a lot of domestic work, but that's still unpaid work because it's not recognized. So unequal funding. So when we talk about unequal funding, we are talking about the venture capital investment. So it's again, it's really shocking figure that if it is a female founder or co-founder and come for the pitching night, same product, same presentation, we tested it. It ends up getting less funding if a female presents for the particular pitch night. The same product, same presentation deck. But if male, when it is, on the other hand, if male presented, you ended up getting more funding. So again, there's really bias, and inherent bias exists, and there's problems we need to solve. So we all acknowledge that. So we understood the problem statement, and we sized the problem. So we really worked together for the 6 months to understand, okay, what's happening around the world. So we invited the global experts from more than 12 countries, and we've interviewed them, and also each country, 6 country participating countries, we ran at least 2 hours workshop. So nationally, for example, in Australia, we ran the workshop with Workforce Gender Equality Agency, which belong to the government. We invite them. We invite all the subject matter expert, and we ran 2 hours workshop, and we open it to the audience and really share the findings and listened their problems and really try to understand what that means. And after running the workshop and the talk and all this the surveys and interviews, the remaining 2 months out of 6 months, we really focused on creating this research paper. So it's publicly available. And what we did is we really summarized the findings, and we really collected what different technologies available to help to solve these kind of problems. And next slide explains more about it. So the recommendations. So as you can see that we broadened the topics into the few areas, and the domestic violence was the first category we really discussed about it. So we looked at existing applications like chatbots, and also some the apps available, and try to compare how it's going to help the victims. And these are actually about 80% of the apps were coming from Mexico, because apparently in Mexico that the unsafe, as you can see, that the personal safety app kind of things are on trial already, and it's proven to be quite helpful and successful. And also we brainstormed and discussed about the future ideas about the violences, because in Mexico and in US they've really worked on the apps, but people realized there's limitations using the apps, because especially the ones who's mostly affected by this domestic violence, they don't tend to use the apps. That's the findings. So we realized that we should actually assist other ways, maybe non-technical method to support them. So we try to bring all the federated learnings and try to help, to suggest about future ideas. And on the sense, we recommended, how about we analyze the risk zones and location tracker. So because you carry, mobile phone, smartphone. So by enabling the tracker, maybe you can really prevent, domestic violence and alert before things become, uncontrollable. And also automated the emergency calls and domestic violence, via, IoT devices, right? And chatbots were recommended again. So when it comes to health inequalities, there are a few existing applications, and those are quite popular again, but still it is nowhere near where we want to go. So there are future ideas about we need to really understand, how the bias is in, pay in different degrees, because you know, um, when you think about the females, even you have to look at different the demographic the profile as well, because different demographic profile and different racial profiles have a different the pain degrees as well when you are exposed to it, right? So all these different nuances really impact as well. So again, people recommended the chatbot can be really used for this kind of analysis and assistance. And the pay gap. So existing applications pay gap, there are few actually available globally, but still they're not all data driven, or the algorithm still needs to be refined, because there's still a lot of improvement can be done. And people recommended the thing is about the pay gap. We don't have enough data collected, because the data is quite private data, and often it's not shared publicly, especially with the corporate the environment. They wouldn't share it. So lack of data really prevents for getting more data or running good algorithm to understand what's really causing it. So there's problems about how we can get more data to understand the pay gap. But still there are some really proven the reasons and the evidence that all these different when you think about especially the longer the tenure is and the higher the band is, there are more pay gap. It's proven. It's like it's not secret anymore, right? So for that reason, often it was recommended you need to really have a proper successor plan, meaning before it becomes senior enough, you need to prepare the manager level, have a gender equality, so that the next level, when you promote it, it has better representatives compared to how historically and previously we have a really imbalanced the ratio. And the next one is unpaid work. Again, this is almost like black hole. We know that unpaid work exists and it's not fair, but how do you really convert those hours and time into monetary value? It's really hard. It almost needs the cultural change, and you need to change the way you look at it, right? And we need to find a new way of collaboration, because certainly it is the area we are really concerned about it. And uneven funding as well. So you can see that there are lack of existing applications and apps, and it's really there are only few very handful available in the globally even. And the future ideas is, again, you have to analyze of how the world funding is really decreasing, why it's there less inherent bias when it comes to the female the oriented founders and co-founded the startups. And also you have to really think about the algorithms as a co-decision maker in reduce human biases, so that we can at least be assisted by this data science driven tools. So as you can see that there are some AI-based application exists, especially in violence, health inequalities, and pay gap. And also a lot of prototyping is done, and improvement or new ventures should be really encouraged, and especially unpaid work, uneven funding area. It's long way to go. You can't even say that we've started a proper journey yet. I'd like to pause here and see if there are any questions. Please feel free to share your view or comment or feedback. I'm happy to discuss with you. I'm reading a question. Is it? So is this question, if anyone wants to start their journey in AI, what should the start point? Any details on the program, if you have any, for the newbies? Love your question. Jeshu. This is a great question, because it's funny how sometimes people think AI, when you say, I want to study AI, artificial intelligence, some people often, think, oh, that means you are going to be AI researchers or AI scientists. But that's not true, because as you know, that AI is really embedded in everything we do. So if you think, because there are more occupation and future job opportunities in AI in the future, so you want to start somewhere, right? Then you need to really look at, for example, if we are students, you have to think about what you like about really understanding what you like doing. So try to find out what you are good at, and try to also assess all different occupations and job categories in AI, because surely AI is not all about building algorithm. In AI, there's some AI project management role, and there's some AI project orchestrating role. So there are two roles, for example, like a business people, and there's the AI technologist. And there are sometimes in between, there's a person who's actually curating all different projects. So, and also there's AI for creativity, so AI for music, AI for painting, and AI for crafting. So surprisingly, there are so many different the roles available. So most important thing is you need to find out what you really love to do, because it's much better to find what you really like to do, and within that, what kind of AI related the roles available, because you're gonna plan for your future. And then you can design your learning curriculum accordingly. But if it's average AI starting like newbie, then the best way is there are so many amazing online courses available, like open courses, which are quite free, almost free, and very cheap. And then like Coursera, Udemy, all these popular, and even YouTube. There's so many amazing YouTube contents available, right? And don't be afraid to ask around people, the mentors, like the people who's already working in AI field as a professional or academia. Don't be afraid asking. Even you go to LinkedIn and then you connect with people and ask questions. Most likely people are really happy to share their advice, because when they are there before, they all did the same thing as well. They asked around and they are mentored, and that's how people moved up where they are. So don't be afraid. And the good thing is all these AI courses, if you're thinking about master courses or even undergraduate or even short courses, because you think there's gap between your career and where you want to go, and you want to fill it by doing the extra curriculum, there are short courses available. But getting the mentoring, and also getting engaged with data and women, this kind of amazing community work, because that's where you meet amazing great people. So you learn on theory and practical the application with book and curriculum, and also you go actually meet and mingle with people and improve your practical skills, and you find a job. and networking. And also it's not just, one answer can explain everything. You do all different combined activities, and they will all come together and help you to move to the career path where you want to go. So maybe if there's no questions about, AI for gender equality, by the way, feel free to reach out to me to LinkedIn if you have further questions later. But yeah, I'm happy to move on to next slide to walk through about what we do.
Yeah, before that, I do have one question,
Please.
which is like, this research, like what is the outcome that you hope to achieve, or the research agency that engaged women in AI, like what do they hope to achieve?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Evelyn. That was a great question. So because this was almost the very first the research project that they've really committed outside of academia region. So which means they've engaged with the Women in AI community, where the members are made of either researchers or AI professionals or data scientists. And what they want to achieve is, okay, we want to understand what's like in Sweden, but also we want to understand what other countries are doing and what the problems are like. And if the problems are very similar, or if there's distinct difference from according to the countries. And the outcome was, it was similar, regardless where the location is. The problem is very similar. The difference is 0.001%. So there's almost no difference whether you are APEC region or EU or US, Northern America region, Mexico, very similar. The problem is similar, surprisingly very similar. That means, and also it was concluded, there's not much data available. Lack of data really hinders to really go with data-driven approach. With no data, how can you create the algorithm? So it was really recommended. We need to be consciously collecting data. There are some data available World Bank website, but the thing is, the data is so messy. It's not complete. It's all, really disperse the data. So which means you can't really use the data to build a model, and you can't build a machine learning algorithm, so that you can create all this AI driven approach, or even data science driven approach. So it was highly recommended. The culture has to be changed. We need to start collecting data, proper data, of course, privacy, governance, all this appropriate, the access and everything governance in place. But we need to really try to collect the data, because qualitative approach we used many years doesn't work anymore. Because without that, even though we create the app, it's less successful, and it's more than likely it's going to fail, because we don't have the numerical evidence that we can really back it up before we create anything. So the outcome is, we still have a long way to go, but the bright side is, if we work together to create and really make the data available, then we've identified all different techniques and methodologies and we can use. And as a result, in Australia, from about 4 weeks ago at New South Wales University, I studied the teaching AI for gender equality curriculum for university third year students, because Microsoft and also Databricks sponsored this project, this research project. So third year business school, we've started researching about the problems, and we've collected some HR data in partnership, and we started looking at really data-driven approach, try to really understand all different attributes. And it's like a small step, but we want to continue. We don't want to stop, because as long as we continue and learn on the way, then eventually we'll get there. So that's kind of positive note we left, after the research project.
Okay, yeah, I have one more question before we move to the last section. The question is, out of these 5 areas, which area do you think has the most amount of data and ripe for AI innovations?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Evelyn. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. in terms of most data is the pay salary data, because it's every organization, they have data already, right? Because it's mandatory, you have to collect the data, otherwise how can you manage it? The thing is whether the data is available to actually to research and to understand quantitative analysis, right? No, not really, because unless there's some big motive and big project jointly run by KPMG or PwC and Accenture, all different, bringing all these corporate partners, and they share the same vision, they identify the same problem, and they decide to tackle this problem together, then you can access that HR pay data, obviously, right? But that doesn't happen often, right? But in terms of most of data, we do have all the data for pay gap. The least data is we should say that unpaid work, because unpaid work area, it's almost like who collects the data about unpaid work, right? So it's almost like a non-existence. But so that's a big problem, right? And the rest of the areas are quite similar. Violence, gender-related violence. Again, as you know that, Evelyn, people don't report, tend to not reporting the domestic violence, right? So we know it exists, but some people think it's unpleasant, but it's not violence, right? And really, it's not violence, or afraid of reporting it because they feel like they'll get the revenge, right? So that's the very tricky area. So apart from that, uneven funding, well, it's known fact. It's you can get some stats. You do have data, but it is in terms of number, the incidents it's not many. So the quantity itself is quite thin. And health inequalities, well, it's a stats, right? But again, it's very thin because there is so little health, gender, female related health, the research projects going on anyway. So that's what it is at the moment.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing. I think I learned something from the session, because this is just not something that I think about very often, and it just kind of brings it to the forefront of my awareness. The issues that affects us. Okay, so finally, I'll move on to the last section, which basically is an introduction to the WaiMASTer program. And in case any of our attendees are interested in attending, just to share what this program is about.
Thank you, Evelyn. So as you can see, that WaiMaster course, this is we call it 1000 Years and 1000 Futures program, because this is a tech literacy program. And also Tableau is proudly and kindly supporting one of the workshops for empowering more females in technology. So as you can see that this program, I designed the program. So I created this program as a head of education. So this program is, initially we worked with a Tableau and Microsoft. And it was like one of the exercise, like a workshop, because we were approached by this business school and they asked, it was 2019 September, and they were saying, we have this really clever, the female university business school girls, and they come through scholarship program. So they are top 100 students. They are very clever. And still 2019, they're getting the tech training is advanced Excel. And they asked me, Angela, is it appropriate? Is it enough? Of course, I said, no, it's not enough. Excel is good, but there should be more than Excel training. So we went and we partnered with Microsoft and Tableau, and we ran 3 hours workshop on Power BI and Tableau. They loved it. The students, about their 200 students came and they loved it. And they said, Angela, can you run similar workshop next year? So I asked, why don't you go and talk to all different university female girls? So not just one university, bring 5 university female society, and they all brought, the students. And the following year, which was last year, so we ran 4 workshops, and with the grand challenge. So the whole purpose of this program is we wanted to really equip the female non-computer science and non-engineering disciplinary students, because they are not, those the students are comfortable with the coding and technology. So we wanted to focus on the university female students who's not comfortable with technology, in terms of not programming students, and not computer science engineering students. And the students were exposed to cloud computing, and also visual analytics. And we also shared the coding workshop, and also ethical AI and storytelling. So we each 4 workshops are really the content geared towards to equip the business, mostly business, the female students more fluent in technology and get used to technology as well. And it was really successful. So this year we kick off national. So we went to New South Wales State and Queensland and Victoria, Northern Territory and Tasmania and Western Australia and South Australia. So we covered the whole nation. And again, we talked to all the university lead, go and talk to other university female societies. So we are connecting all the females each state and bringing big community where females come together and learn. So with the COVID, everything is virtual, and that's how we did in Australia. And thanks to Data and Women, we'd like to bring it into APAC region as well. So it's going to be virtual, right? So we'd like to run, maybe next slide, please. So as you can see that we call it WhyMaster class, right? So different, Azure 101, Coding 101, and Visual Analytics, which is Tableau course, and responsible AI and storytelling. So each workshop, we'd like to run one at each month. But if the timing is not right, because this year will be kind of pilot, so we might tweak it a little bit and run maybe 2 workshops, depending on how we can really plan to kick off in APAC, because it's going to be first time in APAC. But nevertheless, we'd like to run Grand Challenge, because Grand Challenge is where really all the excitement happens, because students with all the technology skills they learn, they can really come and present and recommendation about the problems they defined, and almost pitching, like in a pitching night, like really showcasing their skills they learned. And this to prepare Grand Challenge, often students are working with mentors. So industry mentors, academic mentors, they're supporting the students all the way to prepare for the Grand Challenge. So maybe lastly, this is another program we'd like to bring it to APAC, WhyAccelerate program. So this is already open for the APAC audience. So as you can see that WhyAccelerate is for females, founders and co-founders who has AI product and service ideas, but never been able to actually kick off their startup. This is again free course, and we brought in industry specialist professionals who can help you to actually starting from ideation and try to really discovery and market validation, and also product designing and development. And through hackathon, we brought in the hackathon specialist from Switzerland. So Yona, he's amazing. So with Yona and our team, we run the hackathon for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then during 3 days, you can actually develop your own startup ideas through this, hackathon. And we will examine, how it's almost like a, sprint, startup creation. So it's open to everyone hackathon. So not just the participants who's participating WhyAccelerate program. So WhyAccelerate program is runs for 4 months. So we open to normally 40 to 50 participants. So application is open. So if you are interested, please go to Women in AI Y website, and you can actually find the application form there. And after hackathon, you do have marketing and launch and iteration, and also pitching, fundraising. So we connect with investors as well, try to really make sure that you are enabled to really start your startup. And lastly, we do demo day and beyond. So you can see that this exclusive curriculum workshops and founders inspiration and Y Talk series and complimentary service packages, investors, networking events, and graduation grants. So we also provide the graduation grant as well to help to offer seed money. So as you can see, this is another program we will offer from Women in AI. Any questions? Yes, so these are partnering organizations. You can see Tableau and DX Technology and Minera and Microsoft and Databricks as well. Yes, yes, it is open to all.
Yeah, how to enroll? That's a question I wanted to ask as well for both programs.
Yes, how to enroll. So WhyAccelerate program is already open. So please go to Women in AI website. So normally Women in AI, Women in AI Way. And there you can find the link to apply. So you can Google Women in AI Way, and then WhyAccelerate, you type it, APAC. Normally it leads to the link. The other workshops, it's open. So it is going to be advertised soon. So please stay tuned. So we do have Women in AI APAC, the LinkedIn page, and it will be open, promoted there. And it's not, it's not kicked off yet. So it's gonna be we are scheduled to run the first workshop in late August. So we are going to start promoting in the next few weeks. So stay tuned.
Gotcha. So to summarize, follow Women in AI APAC LinkedIn's
APAC.
page.
That's right.
Where they will advertise about WaiMASTer when it's open, and then for WhyAccelerate, just go to Women in AI's website, click on APAC, and make your application there.
That's right. Thank you.
All right, that sounds really amazing. Even I'm really tempted to make an application myself. So yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Angela. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. If not, then please feel free to reach out to Angela on LinkedIn or to any of the organizers on LinkedIn, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out this evening to join us, and we hope that you learned something that you can bring back with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela, once again
for
joining us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Stay healthy, happy, and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much, Data and Women team. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.